Moving on, President William Ruto has criticized the United Nations Security Council for its ineffectiveness and failure to uphold its fundamental values and principles. Speaking at the United Nations General Assembly on Thursday, Ruto highlighted the plight of the victims of conflict and natural disasters. Bushebi Junior reports.
The New York-headquartered National Basketball Association (NBA) is set to establish an office in Nairobi in November this year. The announcement was made on Friday morning by State House spokesperson Hussein Mohamed, who disclosed that Kenya had signed an MOU with the Basketball Association. President William Ruto was present during the signing of the agreement, accompanied by Sports Cabinet Secretary Ababu Namwamba in New York on Friday. The agreement, Mohamed went on, is also expected to culminate in school and community-based grassroots talent development under the Talanta Hela initiative, including training of teachers as certified basketball coaches and scouts. The State House spokesperson added that the partnership is likewise intended to upgrading of local basketball infrastructure, which will encompass the construction of basketball courts in schools and communities around the country.
That the United Nations Security Council.
Meanwhile, President William Ruto has criticized the United Nations Security Council for its ineffectiveness and failure to uphold its fundamental values and principles.
In the face of the most urgent crisis of our time, it is now clear that the international community has fallen seriously behind in meeting its targets in both climate action and the implementation of the Sustainable Development Goals, as well as their underlying enabler, peace and security.
Speaking at the United Nations General Assembly on Thursday, Ruto highlighted the plight of the victims of conflict and natural disasters.
The state of multilateralism in terms of its founding aspirations as well as its present agenda. The poverty, fear, suffering, and humanitarian distress haunting the victims of conflict, drought, famine, flooding, wildfires, cyclones, deadly disease outbreaks, and other disasters are the outcomes of sustained violation of the most essential principles and the systemic neglect of humanity's dearest values, which lie at the very foundation of the UN Charter.
He went on to condemn the Council for its inefficiency and incompetence in addressing these issues.
That the United Nations Security Council is dysfunctional, undemocratic, non-inclusive, unrepresentative, and therefore incapable of delivering meaningful progress in our world as presently constituted. The rampant impunity of its actors on global scene settles that matter.
He also called the council out for what he termed a division along geopolitical lines that has resulted in alienation, mistrust, insecurity, and exclusion of people, nations, regions, and continents.
Without any fear of contradiction, that the world is headed in a most undesirable direction. It is moments like this that the affirmative spirit of multilateralism, international collective action, and global solidarity is most needed and should be attained.
Ruto called for a united council that is inclusive, collaborative, proactive, and honors its commitments, promises, resolutions, and principles, arguing that this would help fix the global mistrust that has killed the spirit of collaboration.
Assaults of many and many more are afraid of future violations of their most fundamental expectation.
He emphasized that the new multilateralism must be attuned to the needs, challenges, dreams, and aspirations of ordinary people.
The failure of peace and security systems, inadequate development, and limited climate action, amidst technological advancement and enormous wealth, has left us in a state of paralysis, enduring one of the darkest periods of human existence.
Setting the record straight, the president stated that he was not seeking handouts and was instead seeking collaboration, equality, and equity.
We as Africa have come to the world not to ask for arms, charity, or handouts, but to work with the rest of the global community to give every human being in this world a decent chance of security and prosperity by taking necessary actions, mobilizing adequate resources for investment, confronting security challenges, and resolving conflict as we all make our contribution to global prosperity.
Ruto's address did not end there. He went on to call to attention to Kenya's peacekeeping efforts across the country.
Kenya is proud of the contribution it continues to make in its tireless endeavor to support peacemaking, conflict prevention, peacekeeping, peace building, and other interventions undertaken across different regions. All across Africa, there is progress in efforts to resolve conflict.
Among the cases cited was the Juba Peace Agreement brokered by Kenya that was signed by the warring parties in Sudan on December 5th, 2022.
The Juba Peace Agreement ushering in a 2-year transition was signed by the parties to the conflict in Sudan. A day after, the Inter-Congolese Dialogue on EAC-led process and concluded its 3rd session in Nairobi. The following day, the government of Somalia and Somaliland agreed to resume reconciliation.
Other notable peace-promoting missions mentioned were the Pretoria and Nairobi agreements that silenced Ethiopia's guns, the Democratic Republic of Congo stabilization, and the dispatch of an African peace delegation comprised of 6 African heads of state to Russia and Ukraine in a bid to resolve the conflict through mediation.
Our proactive commitment to peace, which is not limited to our continent, inspired us to dispatch the African Peace Delegation consisting of 6 African heads of state to Moscow and Kiev with a 10-point peace plan, beginning with efforts to initiate a mediation process to resolve the conflict between Russia and Ukraine. Although the delegation encountered significant challenges in their mission, we remain very proud that they showed up. The hunger for peace and security in Africa is evident, and this bodes well for the prospects of attaining the Africa Union's Agenda 2063 and global peace.
Reporting for Maisha Prime, Maisha Television, I'm Bushabi Jr.